The recap for January 2023. Now, I tried to put all these articles in chronological order. These are basically articles we covered in the Broken News segment, but I'm kind of giving my own spin on them, and I didn't write the punchlines below them, so I'm doing improv. From here on out, wish me luck. A former Colorado funeral home owner was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison on Tuesday for defrauding relatives of the dead by dissecting 560 corpses and selling body parts without permission. Now, listen. If you're gonna do something like this, I hope it's not that part. When you don't want some horny guy to try to get that transplanted and then end up being charged with assault with a dead weapon.
Oh. All I was gonna say is, I assume the man has a wife.
I don't know.
I mean, if he does, then I guess he's a real corpse husband.
A Massachusetts woman says she had no idea how a loaded gun with a defaced serial number wound up in her purse as she entered a courthouse to support her boyfriend at his arraignment, on gun charges. I'm not sure if you two are going to end up being engaged on anytime soon, but I just have a hunch that's not the first time his gun has been in your purse. Same day, other side of the continent. In Bakersfield, California, two men were trying to set an immigration services center on fire, trying to commit arson. Well, turns out they were dumping the accelerant very recklessly and in turn ended up setting themselves on fire. Now look, I'm assuming this is like the same group of people, far rights wanting to take this country to, carve it up for their own self-interest. I gotta say, it was really stupid that you did this, because on January 6, 2021, if you couldn't get a pipe bomb to go off in the Capitol, it turned out to be a dud, you really shouldn't try to do that again. Isn't that the definition of insanity? But I digress. A passenger of a Ford F-150 called 911 to report they were being chased down State Route 27 by a Washington State Patrol trooper. Wow. Calling the cops on the cops. Was he wasted? You better believe it. You know what? I gotta say, if you're that drunk, you definitely don't want to risk driving. In fact, if you're truly that plastered, you're not gonna remember anything the next morning. You might as well send a dick pic to your ex. Meanwhile, January 9th, the majesty of Kilauea's latest eruption on the big island of Hawaii was marred over the weekend by a man who decided that he was going to urinate in the summit of the sacred volcano. I think we have this backwards, folks. I thought the volcano belonged on the John, and that's the reason I can't have Buffalo Wild Wings anymore. Very next day, a lot of things happening in China. A disgruntled guest rammed his sports car through a Chinese hotel's doors and drove wildly around its lobby, leaving a trail of destruction after arguing with staff about his missing laptop. Now, when I first read this article, I said to myself, my God, we finally have a new Grand Theft Auto coming out. I figured this would be a better story if it happened in like a shopping center, so I could make a Coconut Mall joke.
Or it would be better if it happened, just a smidge over on the island nation of Japan, so that, there could be a Tokyo Drift joke there.
Mm-hmm. A court has ruled that Geico does not have to pay a woman $5.2 million for... It did involve a car, but the car was fine. Turns out this woman contracted an STD in the car. I remember the slogan well. Yeah, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15 STDs or more. A Georgia man who was busted for shoplifting at a Walmart found himself in even more trouble when officers found 37 pounds of weed in his trunk. And I was thinking to myself, he's lucky it didn't get stolen. But I gotta say, you did this in the wrong state, my dude. You shouldn't have done it in Georgia. You should have done it in Colorado. And then you would have been, instead of in handcuffs, you would have been the life of the party. It has been very thoroughly proven that food does not contain traces of aborted fetuses. But that hasn't stopped one Texas Republican from trying to regulate it. Yeah. Sticking your nose in something else. Of course, these are the same, rich lobbyists, like CEOs, stuff like that have become lawmakers, that have decided that horse meat on a bun, that's profit right there. All right, well, you heard about this story in New Zealand. A pair of coked-up crooks planned to get rich by stealing a large and heavy, quote, Coca-Cola vending machine. They spent hours trying to get into it, but only came up with $20 in coins. Now, you're lucky this happened in New Zealand instead of in the States, because if you were trying to attach that to a getaway car, if $20 is all you've had, you're going to run out of gas and you're screwed, because you're not going to be able to fill that bitch back up. Now, we did touch base on the news about Justin Roiland having his ties with Adult Swim severed and stepping down from Squanch Games as its CEO. Listen, I know you got like domestic assault charges, domestic abuse like that. Hopefully you won't get another charge. Pickle Rick. Despite recent massive layoffs at high-profile companies and fears of a global recession, about 61% of American workers are thinking about quitting in 2023, per LinkedIn, which conducted a survey in December polling over 2,000 workers in the U.S. Wait. Okay, this just in. We just got a follow-up article from the same people who published it. They just said, "We apologize for the preceding article. Crypto bros have hacked our site." Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if that's the bit or if that's legit and it was just a made up excuse that they got paid to say.
Schrodinger's punchline. How about that?
Hey.
The lights have been on at a Massachusetts school for over a year because no one can turn them off. Nobody knows how to do it. The school district's assistant superintendent of finance says, blame it on the pandemic and supply chain problems. Well, let me tell you something, assistant superintendent. If you're blaming it on that instead of the fact that it was probably installed in a way that nobody knows how to maintain, gee, I think we found our dim bulb in the room. And finally, this one really messed me up. This year, Pink Floyd will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the release of their legendary album, Dark Side of the Moon. You guys know what that is. It was released in 1973. Their anniversary release has the number 50 on it, with colors of the spectrum, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet, inside the number 0 in the 50. This set off a bunch of, quote, anti-woke right-wingers, claiming that, they've gone woke, and a lot of people decided that they are severing ties, no longer fans, yada, 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 yada. I really think these people should, get kind of a rude awakening. I feel like these are people who have God on their side, or at least claim to. Well, guess what, my good Christian friends? Why don't you stand outside right after a mid-afternoon thunderstorm and look up in the sky? Well, I'm afraid I got some bad news. And that is your recap for the month of January. More to come in the coming months.